Hello, and welcome to another video. We're playing some Vengeance Juggernaut. I do believe we've had some gameplay of Vengeance just a little bit ago. It's definitely one of my more played classes in 5.0. But unfortunately, ever since 6.0, they kind of made this class just absolutely silly, so I don't really play it much anymore. And it's also relatively squishy depending on like the matchup. But it's still very, very good. Its uncapped AoE potential is pretty crazy to think about, and in this match there is an enemy pre-made. They do have a healer, and for the most part this match is like I feel like I'm smuggled into a mid-beast match because that's kind of like how these players like feel like they're still learning and figuring things out, which is completely okay. Definitely don't see these kind of players very often in PvP, at least I don't. And to give you guys a quick rundown of kind of like what I'm doing, Endure Pain gives damage reduction on Vengeance, and Leap also gives damage reduction on Vengeance. For the most part, I don't want the Juggernauts getting Leap off on me because that means they get damage reduction, and in general, this enemy team is kind of squishy. So I'm trying to capitalize on that, but also I do want to try to mad dash it to Leap to get that damage reduction going, even if it's only for 4 seconds. It's definitely helpful. I'm pairing that with Second Wind and the healing talent for Enrage. So when I pop Endure and then I use Enrage, I get more healing because I have more HP, so that percent heal does more. And then on top of that, you also get more healing from Second Wind when you have Endure up because you have more HP. And then obviously you get more healing from Med Pack if you have more HP too. So I'm kind of like snowballing that effect on top of the other healing effects to allow myself to do more healing so I could survive longer. Thankfully their damage is not crazy, so the healing is actually pretty effective at keeping me alive for a while. Then as for stats, critical DR for Vengeance is around 4200. I think I'm running 4184 in this video. Then I'm running 4 Alacrity pieces just because I can't get my stats any lower than that, I guess you could say. Then I'm running a couple what do you call it, the critical augments to hit 4200 or close to 4200 for critical. And then I'm also running mostly mastery augments. I was going to try a full mastery augments, but I ended up losing one of my mastery augments on accident, so I'm waiting for support to get it back, which by the way, if you pull up your augments, you can ask support to restore the item for you. However, I do believe there's a limit on that, but they're pretty generous with that, so if you ever accidentally delete something very expensive, or just delete something that you want back, or even delete a character that you want back, you can do that. Now, as for audio, I would have like game sound on, but unfortunately with the Windows 11 update, it reset my audio settings, so I had to go through and I gotta change that again. Otherwise you'd be listening to me skip songs like a whole bunch. There was like 10 different songs that I skipped. I was like, oh, there's some music, I guess I could play it, and then I'm like, oh wait, no, these songs suck. And I know that because I was skipping it. I'm like, yep. This is definitely not audio that I want, so commentating this. Normally I would like to have some sort of background noise so it's not just me talking, but unfortunate. And for those that are trying to like get into like Vengeance, or you like Vengeance and whatnot, yeah, you'll know that most games are not like this. You take a lot of damage. A lot of people will like to hit you because you're relatively squishy. You also, well, for the most part, if you're not capitalizing your leaps and whatnot, and not getting like cleave, you're not healing much, so you're relatively squishy, but also at the same time, you're just not that great against range in general, unless you take more controlling talents, which, if you are taking more controlling talents, kind of like playing a more single target style, but even then it's probably just better to play Rage. But thankfully this spec is very, very good at AoE. It's pretty much uncapped AoE. The only thing that really limits it is whether people can survive the AoE once you start, or basically start getting it going. As for like build wise, like outside my stats, I'm not running accuracy. If I was to play hemophilic, I would run 5% accuracy because a lot of your damage is white when you're doing a single target sustain, because impel and hew are very important to land. Ravage sticks are always going to miss, so accuracy for just ravage alone is not worth it. And then for vengeance, slam spam, you're pretty much always getting most of your damage from force scream and slam, so it's not really worth it to run accuracy there either. And then through your dots, sometimes your dots can be number 1 depending on which talent you take. So if you're taking the 50% crit on dots, that would be way more damage, especially if you're able to get your dots and maintain your dots. So theoretically, if you're number farming, that would be the talent you would take. But the survivability is definitely more important. But if you're able to actually just have a game where you can just go, say, to the moon, you'd want to use that talent. Also, don't play the spec as much as I used to. I know in 5.0 I played a lot. I remember in the launch of like 6.0, me and Spooky did like a parse thing like as soon as it like came out, and I was like, okay, he wanted to try hatred, I tried vengeance. I kind of wish I didn't do it, but I did 50k and he did like 43k or something like that in an arena, and obviously it's like at that point I'm like, okay, everything's like pointless now. This spec is just so crazy that nothing on it anymore is impressive, at least to me. So kind of just feels like one of those classes you just don't mess with in AoE, because it's just one button spam, clears your whole team. Not fun. Not fun to deal with, I guess. It's fun to play. It's not fun to deal with. And then there's obviously other classes, like there's certain classes that you probably just don't want to mess with that are, if they're good players, start playing it. In AoE, obviously vengeance is definitely the easiest to play and don't really need a good player to do it. Same with lethality, but like when you're playing against really good players on vengeance, pyro, lethality, like those specs you just don't want to deal with, especially lightning. Like those are like the 4 that when it comes to AoE, you just don't really want to mess with those. Don't want to get in cleave for them. You want to make sure you make it as hard as them, or as hard for them as possible. Try to W out of cleave. Just get out of there. Like the best way to outplay lethality outplay is just hold W. As for vengeance, it's pretty much the same thing. Unfortunately for pyro, that's not really a thing that they have to worry about. Their dots alone will still do a lot of damage. And then whenever they catch you in like a clump, they can pull carb, they can AoE rocket punch you. Not that I don't think it AoE roots. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. I'm pretty sure the root's only for the main target, but it does a lot of AoE damage. So in general, like pyro doesn't really care. It'll eventually catch you. And also it's like single target parse sustain is not bad. It's not bad at all. I know a lot of people are like, oh, pyro isn't that good. And I'm like, to be fair, nobody really even played pyro before it even got nerfed. And then even after it is nerfed, it barely got nerfed. Like explosive fuel was not a tactical that I really liked using. I didn't use it that much, and even when it was at the peak with Meteor Brawler, I didn't use explosive fuel most of the time. Which I know is kind of weird to think about, considering I played PT for most of 6.0 for group ranked. A lot of those matches I actually played explosive weaponry instead, because we were able to kill on carbs. And having that on-demand immolate and double searing wave was much more deadly. Anyway, if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.